Social Security is one of the most complex and confusing federal programs. With over 2,700 rules, it's no wonder that we're confused about when and how to start collecting and who to turn to for help. Welcome to Social Security Answers from the Experts, hosted by Martha Shedden. In this podcast series, Martha meets with professionals to provide you with the answers to questions about this most important financial decision. And now, here's your host, President and co-founder of the National Association of Registered Social Security Analysts, Martha Shedden.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another informative and exciting show. I'm your host, Martha Shedden, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Brian Colvert to the podcast. Brian is a certified financial planner and founder of Bonfire Financial, a fee-only registered investment advisory firm in Colorado Springs. He started his career with Smith Barney and later UBS, but found that he could better serve his clients as a true fiduciary registered investment advisor, knowing that clients are more important than shareholders. Brian's been recognized as one of the top advisors in Colorado and nationally by the National Association of Board Certified Advisor Practices, and was also named one of the Colorado Springs Business Journal's Rising Stars 40 Under 40 in 2012. He holds a BA in Public Administration from San Diego State University and is also a graduate of Stanford University School of Business iShares program. Brian's been serving his clients over 15 years and loves the impact he's been able to have on his clients' lives. So welcome to the podcast, Brian.
Thank you very much. Appreciate to be here.
Let's start with your story. How did you come to be a financial professional in Colorado? You majored in public administration and started out as an account executive for RICO, is that how we pronounce it?
RICO
Business Systems in Southern California. So tell us about your path.
So in essence, I went to school out there in San Diego State, had always been interested in finances. And actually one of the big reasons I ended up going to San Diego State was my parents were nice enough to provide a set amount of money for us, me and my sister, to go to school. The rule was, or I guess the agreement was, is that if I didn't spend it all, that rest of the money actually got to come to me. And so I was able to find out that back then I could go to San Diego State, get in-state residency in California, and it was cheaper to go there than it was to go to CU. And I ended up with a little extra money in the end and got to go to school in San Diego. So not too bad. It's a little break from the mountains. So that's a kind of a passion of mine, was just always finding new and different ways to fund things and find ways to use money in different ways. But in essence, was at RICO. My father actually was in the industry as well. He worked at Smith Barney here in Colorado Springs while I was in San Diego. And it was just some conversations of talking with him and his partner, and I got interested in what they did and how they serve their clients. Selling copiers to people is great. The unfortunate part is normally they only want to talk to you when their lease is due or when it's not working. So normally not in the best of moods or the happiest with you. And so talking to people about their finances and helping them achieve their goals seems a little more appealing and way more fun. So that's why I actually ended up pursuing it. Started off in San Diego, was there. And then when me and my wife decided to start a family, decided to move back to Colorado. And then that was kind of, I guess, the history of it, if you will, and just kind of started out. Unfortunately, got to start out, I got to say unfortunate and fortunate. Started out in 2007, so right as the peak, if you will, and then got to experience the financial crisis. And as I say, it somewhat was a blessing because I got to learn through a fire hose extremely fast. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this anymore, because that's the industry from a wirehouse perspective can be quite cutthroat. And so was able to survive and live through it. And that's been able to help clients, and then decided to help them in a better way, in my opinion, by going independent and having more leeway in the ways that I can help them instead of being kind of directed by the wirehouse.
Right. And so what year did you start Bonfire?
I started Bonfire in 2017.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, your parents certainly taught you a good financial lesson there. I think that's an awesome way to motivate your children to go to school and to let them have what's left.
Yes.
That's good budgeting.
It worked out well to see the kind of the light at the end of the tunnel and figure out different ways to do it.
Yeah. So tell me about your clientele. Are you focused on a particular demographic, mostly retirees, younger? What do you find?
So it's always a tough question. I would say that our demographic currently does entail probably pre-retirees and retirees for the most part. We have young individuals as well. But in essence, I always say if you're a nice person and you're willing to save and we're willing to come up with a plan, we're willing to help. So we tend to not turn away people. It's just a matter of if it's a good fit or not is when we don't turn away people. As far as the demographic goes, obviously they are older, normally just because obviously our model and how we are able to do things and how the model, I should say, the financial industry was shaped and still is somewhat shaped, is for us to be financially able to do this. It tends to be people with a little bit more income and savings, and that tends to be people who are older, just by the fact of there's not too many 20-year-olds with $1 million accounts out there, if you will. There's still some definitely that are out there.
Yeah.
There's just not as many.
So do you have a minimum assets under management then, or how is your?
Like I said, we don't really have a minimum. I would say, our average client size is right below $1 million. But as far as, I have people who are in their, I think one of our youngest is like 25 years old, just out of college, and we're helping them grow. And, they have a plan and we're working with them together. And then, I've got, 85 and 90-year-olds who on a completely different story. So, but the majority of the clients are going to be around the probably 55 to, I'll say 70 age demographic.
Perfect for Social Security.
Yes, pretty much right around there.
Yeah.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah. So for others, financial advisors who are listening, what do you think is the most common misconception about how they deal with their clients' retirement planning?
The common misconception by advisors?
And I'm thinking of the difference there, between helping those who are saving, investing, growing, and then you reach that retirement age. And it's really a different type of financial planning, isn't it?
It is. when we get to the retirement stage, instead of, the accumulation phase, it's more of that spending phase. And so cash flow, in essence, becomes very key. And then that distribution strategy becomes very key. So I think there's a variety of different ways to come up with the distribution strategy. And I think there's probably that. Well, I'll probably go on that is like, where do you take the money from first, right? Whether it be from a taxable account, a Roth, an IRA, whether you have annuities, which we're not a huge fan of, but obviously they're out there. It depends on how you want to do it. Do you have a pension? How does Social Security come into play on that? When do you get Social Security? So it's all kind of, I think, coming up with a plan and utilizing all of the avenues that a client might have to create the cash flow to, in essence, create or replicate, I should say, the income that they once had when they were working.
Right. And to not run out of that.
Yes, that's probably the biggest fear for anyone is running out of money because they don't want to go back to work. And I would say, honestly, it's even bigger than that, in my opinion, from when the clients we've talked to is it's not so much about running out of money. It's having to change your lifestyle, right? So if you're coming from making 250, 500,000 a year, and then you go to in retirement and now you're living, let's say 100,000 or something like that, like it's a little different, right? And are you concerned with what it's going to look like going forward? You're used to going out and eating. Are you going to go back to your college days of eating ramen? Probably not. That's not probably what most people want to do in retirement. They already put their dues in, if you will, during those college years and after college.
Yeah. And there's this misperception that we're going to be in a lower tax bracket. We're going to have less in retirement because we're going to cut out those work-related costs. But for me, it's all about, okay, now I can travel, now I can spend money in all kinds of ways.
Oh yeah, no, I would say when we do our planning and financial forecast, I would say that we always assume that you're not going to dip in your spending habits in retirement. If anything, in the first couple of years, they might increase just because, as you said, travel picks up. Obviously, it's been a lot different in the last couple of years, but in normal times, we'll say travel picks up quite a bit in those first couple of years.
Right. Those are the go-go years.
Yes. You're healthy, you have the time, and you have the money, and now it's time to go experience some things.
Yeah. On your website, it says your rssa attorneys, record keepers, and third-party administrators help to make your retirement planning run effectively. Can you speak to how these aspects of your system help with retirement planning?
So on that piece of the puzzle, as far as on the website, that's more, we do manage the retirement plans. So for companies,
Okay.
and so that obviously comes into play when we're creating like 401ks, or we're creating cash balance plans or defined benefit plans for individuals. And that's more in the accumulation phase. But a lot of individuals who are, maybe self-employed or don't have a lot of employees, and maybe it happens all the time, they get to their 50s and haven't put that much away. These types of plans allow them to kind of, I'll say, give it a little super boost where they're able to put a substantial sum away. It all comes down to their cash flow currently, how much can they put away? Right. But it is a very unique and great vehicle for them to be able to save and get to a point where they have quite a bit to support them in retirement.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little, how do you personally stay up to date or educated in general about how to give advice for Social Security?
A great question. I mean, I think it's kind of a nonstop learning because they're always constantly changing. And there's always new things to learn, or, new laws that have come out, or new bills that they're trying to pass that will affect how people are going to be able to utilize different accounts, which then goes to Social Security. So in that sense, we're constantly looking at things. One of the big resources personally that we use is Some Horse's Mouth, which is more of an industry education. And they have some very good education in regards to taxes and Social Security that we tend to watch quite regularly as they come out with new content. We're constantly avidly reading the news, the Wall Street Journal, and constantly looking at new things that come out. I feel like I constantly get emails left and right with, hey, here's this, here's that. And so, we have to filter down how much information we get to make sure that what we're reading is actually helpful for us. But there's quite a bit out there. So it's just a matter of making it a priority.
There is. And there's a lot of myths and misconceptions too.
Very much so.
So, well, I'll have to introduce you to our narssa program. So that.
All right. I'll be excited about it.
That would help you. What are some of the common misconceptions that you find your clients have about Social Security?
I think a lot, like one of the surprisingly big things is obviously, I think some people know it, but I'm always surprised by how many people don't know it, is that you actually, if you've been married for 10 years and unfortunately get a divorce, you can actually get your spouse's benefit or half of it. And so most people don't realize that still, which is, can be very helpful depending on the spouse, whichever side you're on.
There's a surprising amount of divorced people, and it works for men and women. So.
Yes. And so I think it's, people don't realize that, so I think that's one thing that I think I'm constantly reminded by, or it's kind of put in my face that I see. As far as another misconception, it was a while back where if you had a married couple and someone tried to file early, and then you would get that benefit, and then you could change your benefit to get a higher benefit, and they closed that loophole a few years back. And there's still some clients who learned about it, and then they're eligible and they think they're going to be able to do it. And unfortunately, the rules changed on them. So I'd say that's also another probably an interesting misconception that we run into quite a bit.
That's how long things stay around after, that was in 2015, and the file suspend ended 4 months later. And the restricted application's still out there. That's available for someone who's 69 this year. We're taking that out of our module training because
yes, but it's still, I always am shocked when someone comes to me and like, oh, can we do this? I'm like, no, sorry, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It was a great plan. And when it worked, it was great.
And that really draws attention to the need for Social Security education when anything changes. And there's now the Social Security 2100 Act, a sacred trust, and there's also another bill proposing to repeal the WEP and GPO, the pension rules. So there could be a lot coming down the road. Well, one of the core values of your company is enjoying life and having fun. How do you embrace this value as a company, and what is the effect? Do they get time off to go mountain climbing and bike riding?
Yes, I will say that. And so, obviously, we all want to work, we all want to do a good job, but yes, we do try to build a very much of a team aspect. And so that, if someone were wanting to go on a vacation and wanting to go mountain biking, or rock climbing, or whatever it might be, or, honestly, maybe just a regular vacation without any extreme sports to it, they can, and they can enjoy it and not feel like they have to be tied to a computer or a phone while they're away. And so that's kind of why we built some redundancy in our team, so that, when I had, for example, I had an advisor out 2 weeks ago, he went down to Cabo for a nice vacation, and I was able to cover for him while he was out, and vice versa. It happens when I'm out. It happens when we have some of our support staff out as well. So yeah, we try to support each other and work with each other and make sure we still are covering for our clients, but we very much want to live our lives and enjoy it as we want our clients to as well.
Yes, and that break is so necessary for our mental fitness, I think.
Oh, 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and that feeling that someone can't take over for you is scary.
Yes, it's not as relaxing to be on a vacation and then see an email pop up or a text or something, and then you feel like you have to take care of it while you're wanting to be with your family, and then you're distracted, and it just makes it for a more enjoyable experience all the way around when we're able to do it.
Yeah. How do you approach estate and legacy planning? Do you do anything that separates you from others who offer this, or how do you approach that with your clients?
I mean, obviously we talk about it quite a bit in the sense of what their goals are, if you will. I mean, it really comes down to, I think, a client specific need, in the sense of what are they really trying to accomplish in their estate. I've come across some clients who have the aspect of, I'm dead and gone and don't care. They can figure out how to deal with the money. And obviously trying to come up with an elaborate estate plan for them is not normally a worthy adventure. Then I have some who are, they're wanting it to make sure it goes to their kids. They want to make sure it goes to their grandkids. They're trying to come up with certain things. And so it's a lot of just more conversations to find out exactly what they're trying to accomplish with it, and what they're trying to, what kind of legacy are they wanting to achieve, right? That's really what it comes down to. And then once we kind of have that idea, then we can go talk to attorneys. We can figure out the plan that's going to be the best avenue to accomplish such things, with hopefully the least amount of cost and most efficiency in doing so. So it's kind of how we approach the legacy as much as we approach our financial advising, in the sense of we always want to know what the end goal is. Because if we don't know where the destination is, we don't have a really good idea of what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Yeah. It's a very, very personal career, that dealing with people's finances, isn't it?
It is, yes. I've gotten to have some amazing, very close, very personal conversations with quite a few clients. It's been, I would say, one of the more rewarding parts of this.
Which is kind of surprising, because if you're on the outside and you don't realize that until you're helping people with that. I think the retirement planning is helping people with Social Security. They're so confused and afraid of making the wrong decision, and giving them that peace of mind is a huge part of it all, I think.
100%, yes.
Whatever the amount they're going to receive, and that just so they know. How much work do you do around Social Security claiming strategies and how those different claiming options play in the broader retirement planning analysis? How do you help your clients with that decision? Do you use certain software, or how do
I mean, we have used some certain software in the past. I mean, we have our financial planning software as well. We're constantly looking at new software to help us because new software keeps coming out. And so we've been through a few. I'll say we're kind of in a transition stage to finding a new one that I think will help us a little more. So I don't have a great answer for exactly what we're using, because what we had did an okay job, but there were things that I didn't like that it couldn't do. So we're still searching. But getting back to, kind of your question is how much time do we spend on it? We spend quite a bit, and it's a twofold conversation, I will say, in that it is a conversation, one, just on money, right? And that's just how do we financially make it the most effective for you, whichever client we're working with in their unique situation, and how do we maximize it for them?
Yeah.
The second piece to it is more, I'll say, psychological, because a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about Social Security and the government, I will say. And some people, I could talk all the logic in the world to why they should wait and how much more benefit it has. And I'm talking to a brick wall, because all they want to do is they want to take it because they paid in and now they want to get paid back. And it's a psychological question too, right? And so we get to have quite a few of those conversations to figure out if we include all aspects, what's going to be the best solution for them.
Yeah, and I call that the optimal solution.
Yes.
Not necessarily the maximized amount of money, because it's not.
No.
And especially for couples, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I've met with 2 or 3 couples who did not hire me to help them with their Social Security analysis. The woman reached out to me and have questions, but the husband simply is bound and determined to start at 62. He wants, just like you described.
Yeah.
And that is such a disservice to whoever's the survivor, which is most likely the woman.
Yes. I mean, it goes both ways, but yes, and it's just a matter of, it's personal preference. Everyone has their opinions. And so it's a matter of, our job is trying to figure out, as you said, the optimal solution, right? So I may not get them to be the fully, we'll say, maximized solution, but we might get closer to one that appeases their needs for wanting to take it, but also gets them to where they aren't hurting themselves by doing such things.
Yeah. And yes, if they have other financial resources, then it's a big puzzle.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So along that vein, as you're working with retirement and personal account withdrawal strategies to make the most of that Social Security benefit, do you consider the whole taxation issue, how Social Security is given a tax preference, retirement accounts are fully taxed? Do you calculate all that? And
we do I'd love to say we're perfect at it, but I think we're trying our best to do it for our clients. And when like I mentioned earlier, it's the withdrawal strategy, right? And so it's kind of the evolution of trying to figure out what is going to be the best for them, not only today, but also, a few years from now too, because if we think of someone who's retiring, we'll say 65, in essence, they have probably 25, maybe even 30 plus years that they're going to now live off of their investments and hopefully not have to go back to work and not change their lifestyle and keep pace with inflation, which is getting harder and harder. And so with that, we got to think not only what about today, but what about tomorrow, right? And so, yes, we look at a lot of withdrawal strategies, whether that means we're converting, IRAs or 401ks over to Roth so that we can have that tax-free growth. But in doing so, obviously, by doing that, we create income tax. And then how does that affect everything? And then we're also looking at how much did we then increase the Medicare costs as well. So there's a lot of moving parts when we start getting into that withdrawal strategy. that we have to calculate and kind of figure out to make sure that, if we were to make a distribution or withdrawal over to a Roth or do a Roth conversion, does that actually make sense? Are we really getting a bang for buck, or did it just seem like a good thing to do? And so that's kind of where the analysis comes in, that we spend quite a bit of time on figuring it out. And then we also talk a lot with our client CPAs as well, because as well, I would say I'm dangerous when it comes to tax. I do not have a CPA license and we don't give tax advice. And so anything I do is going to affect them that way. So we like to make sure we have the right experts doing the right equations to figure it out as well.
That's excellent. That partnership is so valuable.
It is. I'm a believer in you can't be an expert in all things, but it is nice to have a team of experts.
It is. It certainly is. So changing course here a little bit, I understand that you have I assume it's a digital assets CFP certificate in blockchain.
Yes, I did. I got the certification in it so I could. It was a bigger thing because I wanted to learn about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out what it was, how it worked, get a better understanding of it. Because, for a long time, I thought it, back in 2017 when it kind of went crazy then, it was around before then, obviously, but in 17 was kind of a big hoorah when it came back in a pretty big vengeance. And, honestly, I joked with clients saying it was like the tulip craze, if you will, in the past where, everyone bought in and then it floundered out and it kind of stuck around. It kept coming back. And so it followed, but came back. And so I was like, more clients were asking me about it and I wanted to learn. And so that's why I found that training. I thought it was a good one and got certified in it.
I think it's valuable. I have some Bitcoin and Ethereum on my son's recommendation.
I feel like that's how most clients are that way. It's the son or daughter, or, in some cases it's the grandson or granddaughter who was like, you should do this.
But I'm grateful now. I mean, that was quite a few years ago and it's crazy. I just watch it. I don't touch it. But it's really a mind-bending, the blockchain. It's a crazy concept.
It is. It's new. It's obviously quite complex. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And, it's new technology. And I think anytime we see new technology, it's kind of, it boggles our minds for a while until we kind of become accustomed to it. And so I do think it's an interesting investment. I don't mind putting a little bit into it. I'm not certainly saying let's, back the truck up into it in any way, stretch or form on that. But I do think it's really good to know about. And I am a believer. I'm not sure it's going away. I think it's here to stay for a while.
I do too, in some form. I don't count it as one of my assets though, really.
No, I mean, when we talk to clients, if I have clients come to me and we're talking about it, it is an extremely small piece of the puzzle that we're looking at, because honestly, it's still new. It's still in its infancy stages and it still is extremely volatile. Right. And so until such time as it doesn't have that kind of volatility, it's still going to be a very speculative investment.
Right. So our audience is both financial professionals as well as, pre-retirees, just listeners who are learning about retirement planning. Based on your experience and knowledge, what are the top 2 or 3 most important takeaways that you would give to individuals approaching retirement about claiming Social Security and their retirement planning? If they aren't working with a financial professional, what would you recommend?
So obviously, I think one of the biggest things I would recommend anyone do is to seek some guidance from a professional. That doesn't mean you have to have that professional invest your money, but I do think a professional, CFP, CFA, whatever, or some other credentialed person who has your best interest in mind is going to be able to look at it from kind of a third party and say, hey, here are some things that I'm seeing. Because in my opinion, the way I've seen it with our clients is there is no crystal ball, right? So there is no way to predict the future accurately, consistently. But if you can run enough scenarios out there and figure out, kind of where maybe are the shortcomings in your plan, and an advisor can actually do that for you, to hire them for a small one-off look to say,
Right.
hey, here's where I'm seeing what you might need to adjust or things that you may not be seeing currently, it's going to be worth every penny you spent, in my opinion, because in that case, it's going to give that client more peace of mind. And it also is going to allow them to, enjoy their retirement instead of having to constantly be, thinking or wondering or logging on and saying, what's going to happen now? You kind of want that peace of mind. And so if you can run as many scenarios as possible and have valid professional take a second look, I think is a very good idea. So I guess that's my 2 cents on that regard. But if you want to hire the advisor to do more, that's also good as well. We do see a lot of people who get to the point where they, the accumulation phase is not, I would say, as difficult as the withdrawal phase. And, it's pretty simple. You save more than you spend, or save more than you make, I should say. And so in that regard, that's not too difficult. You put it in a couple of investments and hopefully it does well. The distribution phase, it's nice to have that advisor, someone who's constantly researching, looking, keeping up to date with the ever changing environment that we have and making sure you're abreast with what's going to affect your situation.
Yes, that's a really good answer.
Thank you.
Do you work with clients remotely, Brian?
Oh, I mean, we have before the pandemic and we definitely do now. So yes. We have clients all over the country. And so we do get to see them. It's nice when we get to go actually visit them from time to time. So that's always, it's more fun that way. I just enjoy seeing people face to face. I'm just an old fashioned guy that way, but no, we do very much have the remote capabilities. And I think it's, I have some clients who live in the same town as me, and we started doing the remote things because of the pandemic, and now they like it better because they don't have to drive down. So it works out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we sign off, I think I remember reading something about your life goals about climbing mountains.
Well, I mean, I like climbing mountains. I don't know if I have a specific goal of climbing all the mountains. I enjoy it. I would say I actually like riding my bike on them more than I enjoy hiking them. But
oh, do you? Okay.
I just enjoy being outside as much as possible. I mean, I would say probably my primary goal right now, or at least I hope to, is to get my son to at least see all of the national parks before he actually leaves. So hopefully I can get that done.
That's a really worthwhile goal.
Yes.
Well, it's been so wonderful to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us. That's it for today. And thank you for listening to our podcast. Please tune in every Wednesday for new episodes. Our expert guests share a wide variety of knowledge and all things retirement related. See you next week.
Thank you.